JBN, we keep you informed. 2 men held after farmers chopped and then robbed in St. Elizabeth. Police say they have apprehended 2 men who have been accused of using a machete to wound a farmer and then robbing him of $18,000 in the parish of St. Elizabeth. Allegations are that the men, identified as 25-year-old Kevoy Warren and 26-year-old Marvin, carried out the attack against the farmer on Saturday, June 4. Police say the accused men were later held during an operation in the parish. The 2 men are accused of using a machete to chop the 42-year-old farmer and then robbing him of $18,000 before making their escape. A report was made to the police, and an intelligence-driven raid was later carried out in Beacon District, where the 2 men were held at a premises believed to be their home. They were subsequently charged with wounding with intent and robbery with aggravation. Police said a court date has not yet been finalized. Bartender shot in Vale. Gunmen invaded a business establishment in Vale in St. Catherine on Saturday evening, leaving a 25-year-old bartender with gunshot wounds. Residents reported hearing a number of explosions at a bar, which is located across the main road from the Vale Primary School sign. According to residents, the gunmen escaped on motorcycles heading up the street towards Vale Town Centre. Further reports are that the shooters drove past the police station and were later spotted in the Worther Park area. The police are reporting that the crime was committed by 4 men who traveled to and from the crime scene on 2 bikes. It added that one of the 4 gunmen entered the bar posing as a customer. 5 shots were fired, the JCF added. It said the 4 men later left the area on motorcycles. There is no indication so far that the incident was a robbery. The bartender, who was shot at least twice, was taken to the Linseed Public Hospital. It is said that her wounds are not considered life-threatening. This is at least the 2nd gun-related attack on civilians in the Vale police area within months. Gunmen also struck at a shop in the Topil area recently. They robbed and beat some of the patrons. 2 shot dead at home in St. Anne. The Jamaica Constabulary Force JCF said 2 persons were shot dead on Friday at Julie Drive in the Mansfield Heights area of Ochiraya, St. Anne. The deceased are 55-year-old businesswoman Cassette Graham and her 31-year-old son Maurice Levy. The JCF said the incident happened at about 11 a.m. while both victims were at home. Both persons were reportedly at home when a motor vehicle drove up and the men armed with guns alighted and fired several shots. Both of them were hit and they died while being treated at hospital, the police said. Attorney of booted councillors hits back. Sylvan Reid and Gladstone Bent, the 2 People's National Party PNP councillors who were disqualified by the Jamaica Labour Party JLP-led St. James Municipal Corporation on Thursday, are preparing to mount a legal challenge to their ousting, saying that their constitutional rights were breached. We have been instructed to take the legal steps that are necessary to ensure that the men's rights have not been trampled on, and insofar as there are legal means available to prevent that, they'll be used to the fullest extent, said top-flight attorney K.D. Knight, who said yesterday that he would be representing both men in their legal challenge. According to Knight, the corporation's vote to strip the 2 men of their positions as councillors failed to take into account the fact that Reid and Bent were staying away from the meetings in keeping with the government's current COVID-19 guidelines, as both men have underlying medical conditions. It may very well be that their constitutional rights are being abridged by the action that was taken. From our instructions, the action that was taken is unfortunate and does not take into account the medical conditions of the councillors, said Knight. The council was depending on their standing orders, but the standing orders would not have contemplated the situation that exists now in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic, and neither would it have taken into account the protocols which have been established by the government of Jamaica, added Knight. Reid, who represented the Salt Spring Division in the corporation, and Bent, who represented the Catadupa Division, were booted from their positions during the corporation's monthly meeting on Thursday on a motion that stated that they had disqualified themselves by missing 3 consecutive meetings. According to Section 30(1)(b) of the Local Governance Act, if a person elected to the office of mayor or councillor is absent from 3 consecutive ordinary meetings of the council without the leave of council, that person shall thereupon become disqualified immediately and shall cease to hold the office. However, since the outbreak of COVID-19 in Jamaica, the Ministry of Health and Wellness has repeatedly advised that persons who are over the age of 65 or who have underlying medical conditions should stay home as much as possible to avoid contracting and spreading the highly contagious respiratory illness, which has resulted in a little more than 610 infections and 10 deaths to date. In a release on Friday, Andre Hilton, the PNP candidate for St. James Central, which covers the division served by Reid, condemned the St. James Municipal Corporation expulsion of the two councillors, describing it as an act of political desperation. It is wrong to apply such drastic measures of sanction against both councillors during the COVID-19 pandemic environment. To go this far against a disabled councillor like Councillor Bent, who is 65 years old and blind, and to show disregard of the condition created by the pandemic demonstrates a lack of desperation and destructive politics that cannot advance peaceful coexistence and collaboration, Hilton stated in the release. Holness clarifies travel protocols. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has sought to clarify the protocols relating to the testing of tourists traveling to Jamaica beginning June 15 as the country opens for tourism. Speaking at a digital press conference Friday evening, Holness said that tourists will only be subject to testing if they are assessed as high risk. Visitors from North America, the United Kingdom, Central America, and South America are classified in this category. According to Holness, this determination will be made after health authorities ascertain whether the visitor is coming from countries designated as high risk for COVID-19 transmission. This is based on World Health Organization classification or other risk factors, such as exhibiting of symptoms or exposure to persons in high-risk groups. Persons assessed as high risk will have their samples taken at the airport or other designated facility and await their test result at their hotels or resorts under the stay zone measure, he explained. If the test is negative, they would remain under the stay zone measure. If the test is positive, however, they would be isolated either at the hotel resort or in a government facility as determined by the health authorities, the Prime Minister added. Holness said that tourists not assessed as high risk will be allowed to go to their hotels or resorts under the stay zone measure, under which they are required for the duration of their stay in Jamaica to remain within the COVID-19 resilient corridor, which spans West End Road in Negril and continues along the North Coast Highway to Port Antonio in the east. He also said non-residents who are visiting Jamaica for tourism or business are mandated to apply for travel authorization on visitjamaica.com, the official website of the Jamaica Tourist Board, or be denied the opportunity to board their booked flights on the day of travel. The travel authorization is not required to book your flight to Jamaica. It is, however, a requirement at check-in and boarding, and the airlines will not allow passengers to board without presenting their travel authorization, he warned. SOE imposed in Kingston Western and the Central Police Divisions. A new state of emergency SOE has been declared, this time covering the corporate area police divisions of Kingston Western and Kingston Central, which were blanketed with members of the security forces before dawn on Sunday. The announcement was made Sunday morning by Prime Minister Andrew Holness during a Jamaica House press briefing, where he was flanked by National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang, Chief of Defense Staff Lieutenant Colonel Rocky Meade, and Commissioner of Police Major General Anthony Anderson. Holness said the SOE will be in effect for 14 days, after which it will need a 2/3 vote in both houses of Parliament for it to be extended further. The Prime Minister said Governor General Sir Patrick Allen had signed the declaration giving effect to the latest SOE. This means SOEs now cover 5 parishes entirely and 4 police divisions within Kingston and St. Andrew. This will connect the states of emergency existing in the Kingston East and St. Andrew South police divisions, creating an effective security corridor along the waterfront from Bull Bay in the east to Ferry in the west, Holness said of the latest SOE. This space now declared has seen increased criminal activities in the second quarter of this year. These areas, if left unchecked, have shown historically that they can spiral to chaotic ends, even having national disruptive impact, he stated. Holness told the virtual media briefing that the gangs operating in the area have changed their modus operandi and are no longer confining themselves to geographical areas within community locations, operations, and affiliations. This presents the possibility of super gangs emerging through collaboration, and this creates a platform for the insemination of more nefarious and foreign criminal activities, Holness warned. And the Prime Minister, who holds the defense portfolio, said the security forces have also observed an increase in extortion, in particular around the market districts and the South Coast Highway Improvement Project, which has started along the Harborview to Bull Bay corridor. He had a warning for criminals. At the launch of this project, I was clear that we will not allow criminals or politically connected persons to extort, hold up, or otherwise threaten the work in this area in any way. This is a national project, and the government will deal decisively with anyone who seeks to disrupt or otherwise interfere with the smooth operation of this road development project, which has been long anticipated and will be extremely beneficial to the people of Jamaica, particularly the people of St. Thomas. In his remarks, the police commissioner stated the declared SOE was necessary because of the high level of violence, especially in the Kingston Western and the Central divisions. He said this was despite an overall decrease in murders and shootings nationally. Anderson said the level of crime in the division was at a scale and a nature that greatly endangered public safety. He noted that one such gang feud last week saw criminals setting fire to the railway market in the Kingston Western Division, depriving residents in and around the community of their livelihoods. Anderson said criminals have also attacked the police as they sought to save lives by intervening between the rival gangs. More disturbing is that murders and shootings in Kingston and St. Andrew account for 42% of the national figure, according to the commissioner. These criminal acts are characteristic of long-standing and deadly inter- and intra-gang conflicts, he said. Anderson also noted that there have been recurring hotspots across the Kingston Western Police Division, where some 48 gangs are located. He said 50% of the West Kingston gangs are actively engaged in criminal activities. The commissioner said Kingston Central has 32 gangs actively engaged in violent conflicts. The commissioner also said that the gangs have established networks across divisions to fortify their activities. To counter them, the police are actively hunting a number of persons who are wanted for murder and other violent crimes in the geographic space. Anderson said 74% of the murders in the division are related to gang activities. JBN, we keep you informed. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.